Nice comb.
Murphy.
Oh, book. I had to get my book. Here we go. Who's this?
Did you hear Alan? Alan says he has his book.
I have my
Oh, I'm about to sneeze.
Okay. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard, second time around, beginning in 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe Margaret Vogel, of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal Vayishlach Gloria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Moshe Wisniewski. So we are now learning the 8 kings of Edom, and how they all stand for the sphere of Tohu. And they all stand for the spheres of Tohu. They are all spheres of Klipa. The idea of Klipa, as we saw, is to divert or intercept, or at least to interfere with, the flow of divine energy from Zeir Anpin to Malchus. Last week, we learned about Husham, the third of the kings. This week, we're going to look at the first 3, and then we're going to go into the 4th. And if we do a lot, we'll be able to do this week, next week, and finish this chapter. Otherwise, we'll go into the 3rd week after. So we're on 206. I need to share the screen, right? Hold on. I thought I have the document open. Don't remember closing it. Correct. Okay. July 13th, 2021. 48. In the beginning of the chapter, we pointed out differences between the account of the 8 kings in the Torah and the account in the book of Chronicles. We asked a number of questions. Among those questions were differences between the way it's written in Torah and the way it's written in the book of Divrei Hayam and book of Chronicles. So far, we've explained the first three kings. The first name was Bela ben Baor, and the name of his city was Dinhava, and he personifies Klipa of Das. The second was Yovav ben Zerach from Batzra, and he personifies the sphere of Tiferes of Klipa. The third king was Husham from the land of the south, and he represents Chesed of Klipa. Now, if you remember, 1 or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, at the bottom of page 197 and the top of 198, we said the name of Bela's city, the first one, was Dinhava. Dinhava means give judgment. And because it says, because Nukva of Klipa requests judgment from Das. Das sends judgments to Nukva from all 6 sub-spheros of Das, within Das. The name of Bela's city alludes to Nukva. I guess the name of any city alludes to Nukva. And the conclusion here is that the first king Bela, personifying Das, including all 6 sub-spheres. In this little section, the next few paragraphs, we're going to say that the spheres here of Klippa are not all alike. Some, like Das, include all 6 sub-spheres of Zeranpin, from Chesed to Yesod. Tiferes and the other 2, I think, only will personify one subsphera within the greater sphere, within Tiferes, within Chesed. Okay, so we're going to do this now. Alan, are you ready? Okay, 206.
Now, even though these 3 kings, Bela, Yobab, and Husham, correspond to Das, Tiferes, and Chesed, they do not do so in the same way. The evil Das encompasses all the 6 midos of Das. Therefore, in the account of Bela, the name of his city is mentioned, alluding to the Malchus of Das. As was explained previously, the evil Nukva requests judgment from Bela, the evil Das.
Okay, so the Das included all 6 subspheres. The second king corresponds to Tiferes. Unlike Das, it only includes the subsphere of Gvura. It says he's from Batzra, which implies harvesting black grapes. Black grapes affiliated with Gevura. And we mentioned this a few weeks ago, a few lessons ago, that the idea that the name of the place Batzra, in Hebrew, Livtzor means to harvest grapes. This is affiliated with Gevura, and I guess it means the black grapes. And again, I looked at that time, I researched, and the only thing that I found affiliated with black grapes is, I don't remember what the context was, but it says that there could be white grapes, there could be black grapes. But there was no, it didn't attribute anything to the black grapes, not in Kabbalah and not in any other context. Midrash, nothing. I don't think they could. I think it has to do with this.
The evil Tiferes encompasses only Gevura of Tiferes. Therefore, the Torah says that Yobab was from Batzra, alluding to harvested black grapes. This, as was explained previously, alludes to Gevura. Batzra means harvest.
Okay, the third king, who corresponds to Chesed, only includes Malchus of Chesed. Therefore, it says he's from the land of the south, land alluding to Malchus. Land, the feminine principle of Malchus.
The evil Chesed encompasses only Malchus of Chesed, as alluded to in the phrase from the south land, land denoting Malchus. The Arizal now will address the issue of why in the Torah Husham is written without a vav, while in the book of Chronicles it is written with a vav.
Hey, so we went through we differentiated between the first 3 kings, and now we're going to go back to the third king and go into more detail, or add some details. Both Zerampin and Nukva need each other. Zerampin needs Nukva to pass on the divine energy. Nukva needs Zerampin to supply it with divine energy. And I guess if they're not a couple, if they're not a pair, they both suffer. Chesed of Klippa prevents the light, the divine energy, from Zerampin from reaching Malchus. A moment. Okay, go ahead.
Know that just as Chesed of Zeranpin exists for the sake of Malchus, and this evil Chesed issued forth opposite it in order to prevent the light belonging to Malchus from reaching it, so too the Chesed of Nukva of Zeranpin exists for the sake of the male, that is Zeranpin, in order to cause feminine waters to ascend to it. Both the male's and the female's ability to love exist in order for them to be focused on their mates. Ascending feminine water is the Zoharic idiom for arousal from below.
Thank you. Now, 52. Chesed of Klippa diverts the light from Malchus and does not interact with Nukva. Therefore, it dies. It's a lonely partner. His name, Chusham, is written in the Torah without a Vav, indicating that it does not interact with Malchus, and he dies. In Chronicles, Divrei Hayamim, Chusham is written with a Vav, to show that Nukva of Zerampin lacked the male partner, and it too dies. So he said before that in the Torah, it's the male principle. So for some reason, Chusham is written without the Vav, and for some reason that shows that it doesn't interact with Malchus. In Divrei Hayamim, it's representing from the point of view of, it gives over the account from the point of view of Nukva and Malchus. And the Vav is there to show that it lacks the male partner, and it also dies. Exactly how that works and why that is not clear. I think I left out the next paragraph accidentally. But okay. Go ahead. Read.
Know that just as Chesed of Zeranpin, this evil Chesed of Zeranpin therefore died, since it lacked a mate, inasmuch as they had not yet coupled. Therefore, the word Chusham in the Torah, which describes the male dynamic, is written without a Vav, alluding to the female, the lack of whose presence caused this Chesed to die. In contrast, the word Chusham in the book of Chronicles is written with a Vav, in order to indicate that for lack of the male, this Chesed of Nukva of Zeranpin died. This explanation, however, is not satisfactory. Possibly the explanation is that this evil chesed issued only as an expression of its malchus, thereby expressing the feminine principle. Therefore, Chusham is written in the Torah without a vav, which indicates the male principle. In the book of Chronicles, Chusham is written with a vav. The rest of this thought is missing in the manuscript. The letter vav of the name Havaya indicates the midos or zer anpin. It thus signifies the male principle. In this context, the letter Hey signifies the female principle. The fact that in the Torah, Chusham is written without a vav would indicate that the male element of this evil chesed is lacking in some way.
All right. So whatever that is, they give some explanation. I guess the vav, usually in the letters of Hashem's name, Yud, Hey, and Vav and Hey. So the two letters, the first and third, Yud and Vav, represent male principles. The second two letters, second and fourth, Hey and Hey, represent the female principles. So here the letter Vav usually also corresponds to the Zer Anpin, which is the male. So that it's missing in the Torah. It's written deficient spelling without the Vav. It's to show that there's some missing in the connection with something with the male principle, whatever it is. Okay, 53. Abigail, did you say that you don't have your book? It's packed away?
I thought I had my book, and it turns out that was not. It was the box that had something else in it.
Okay.
Had my Hanukkah.
It was the box that had the actual apples from the orchard, not the book called The Apples from the Orchard. All right.
It's in the garage, maybe.
Okay. Hopefully you'll find it soon.
Yeah.
53. The name of the fourth king is Hadad ben Bedad. Okay, Hadad is a dealership in the Berkshires. Hadad Auto. Do you know that? He spells it with the 3 Ds, Haddad. The name of the fourth king is Hadad ben Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab. That is a quote. The name of the city is Avit. Hadad. By the way, in this week's parsha, there's a nation, people called Avim, and I wonder if the Avim are people who come from Avit. There are people in Israel who do a lot of research on this kind of stuff. Hadad corresponds to Yesod of Klippa. I'm sorry, Hadad corresponds to Yesod of Klippa. All of these are Klippa. So we've had Das, Tiferes, and Chesed. Now we're coming to Yesod. His name, I just want to point out, I think we had this already, that there, in holiness, it goes in order from Chachma, then Bina, then Das, then Chesed, then Gvur, and so on. And it could be that since it's Klippa, and since it's Tohu is, there is no order, no interdependability. They're all, each one's fighting for his own turf. So therefore, chaos, therefore they're all out of order. It's like when you choose on your playlist to scramble those songs. Hadad corresponds to Yesod of Klippa. His name, Hadad, is similar to Hadar, which means beauty, and is used in the Torah in reference to the esrog. The Torah calls an esrog the pre-eitz Hadar, a beautiful tree fruit. Hadar is also used in the Torah for v'hadarta pnei zaken, show grace to the elderly. I'm going to write, be gracious. And that's my own loose translation. Be gracious to the elderly, be gracious being similar to the word hadar, beautiful fruit. Which, in a play of words, is also explained, not just here, but probably in a medrash, can be understood as the beauty of the face is the beard. Hadras panim zakan. That the beard, it gives the face its, what's the word? Stature. It's really, but like it's stature, it's prominence. That's right. We now have, so now putting this, making all the connections, we have his name Hadad. He stands for Yesod, which is part of the body is the Bris Milah. We connect it with Hadar, which means beauty, refers to the esrog, the elderly, and the beard. Okay, so Jim, please continue 208, the fourth king.
The fourth king is the evil correlate to the holy Yesod, referred to as beauty Hadar, expressing the idea in the phrase, a fruit of a beautiful Hadar tree. This type of beauty is the beauty of the totality of the body, as can be seen from the phrase, you shall honor, Hadarta, literally beautify, the face of the elderly. When it is absent, the beard disappears. The verse, you shall honor the face of the elderly, vehadarta peni zakim, can be read, the beauty of the face is the beard. Vehadrat panin, understood panim zakan. We have also seen how proper maturity of Yesod, anatomically correlated to the male reproductive organ, determines the presence or absence of the beard. There are a number of synonyms for beauty in Hebrew. We see here that the beauty expressed by the presence of the beard on the face is called Hadar. Since this beauty depends upon the Sephirah of Yesod, it is associated with it.
Okay, so the male reproductive organ, which corresponds to Yesod, is I guess there's some association to the beard as well. What they call male traits, male something, characteristics, male characteristics. So here, I thought this was interestingly, the 8th king is called Hadar. Remember, this one, the 4th king is Hadad. The 8th king is called Hadar.
Mhm.
But in Chronicles, Divrei Hayamim, the 8th king is also Hadad. So I just thought of this now. So the 8th king, his name gets interchanged. From Had, in the Torah he's Hadar, and in Chronicles he's Hadad. So we see that there is some interchangeability between the two names. I want to add that to the notes at some point. Okay, 54. Why then is his name Hadad and not Hadar? The letters Dalid and Resh are very similar. Dalid means impoverished. Since this Yesod is from Klipa, it comes with judgment and is therefore deficient or defective. The letter Dalid, meaning impoverished, then is appropriate to say that this is a faulty faulty sphera because it's associated with Klipa. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
But in this context, that is, that of the emergence of strict judgment, Yesod issued defectively, and this king was therefore called Hadad, spelled with a Dalet instead of a Resh. The word for defective or lacking is Dalut, cognate to Dalet, the letter of the alphabet. Dalet and Resh are almost identical in form, and therefore considered twin letters. Changing the Resh into a Dalet thus signifies transformation from fullness to defectiveness.
Okay, 55. The gematria of Hadad is 13, the same as Echad, 1, and the same as Ahava, love. As we said, Hadad corresponds to Yesod, which is where all Sfirot join as one. And so that's Echad. It uses the word coalesce in Yesod, and the word Ahava, love, may relate. We can use our imagination how it relates to the male organ. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
The numerical value of Hadad is 13, which is also the numerical value of the word for one, Echad, and the word for love, Ahava. Hadad, Hey Dalet, Dalet, 5 plus 4 plus 4 is 13. Echad, Aleph, Chet, Dalet, 1 plus 8 plus 4 is 13. Chava, Aleph, Che, Bet, Che, 1 plus 5 plus 2 plus 5 is 13.
Okay. 56. Yesod. Okay, Eric, it's interesting. Yesod is where the male seed is produced and transmitted to the female. This is compared to olives and grapes being crushed to produce oil and wine, to extracting oil and wine from olives and grapes. Change the comma. While holiness, okay, probably never thought of that metaphor before. While holiness produces oil for lighting and wine for gladdening the heart. That is a, both of these are quotes. Oil for lighting is in the Torah.
Mhm.
For the light in the, produce light in the Mishkan, the menorah.
Mhm.
And wine gladdens the heart is from the book of Shoftim, the parable of Yotam, son of Gidon. Klipa produces wine that intoxicates, wine with negative consequences. Klipa produces wine that intoxicates. Yesod, in other words, Yesod with judgment. So Yesod is the male reproductives, producing the male seed, just as the olives and grapes produce their products, their liquids, their products. But if the yesod is from klipa, then it's compared to grapes that produce wine for that intoxicates rather than wine that gladdens the heart. Okay, continue, Jim.
Okay. This further indicates that it correlates to Yesod, inasmuch as Yesod is known as a place of oneness, where all the antecedent Sephirot unite and coalesce there, as is known. And just as the holy Yesod crushes the spiritual olives with mercy in order to produce pure pressed olive oil for lighting, so does this evil Yesod tread down spiritual grapes in the winepress in order to produce intoxicating wine with strict judgment. Both oil and wine are used here as analogies for Yesod, since liquid is produced from both fruits by forcibly squeezing the contents out of them, much the same as seminal fluid is squeezed out of the male reproductive organ. We have commented previously on the linguistic connection between semen and shemen, which is the word for oil. In general, oil is associated with chachma and wine with bina. Chachma is situated on the right axis of the sephira tree and is associated with chesed, which is the dominant influence in Tiferet, while bina is situated on the left axis, associated with gevura and judgment. Oil floats over other liquids, indicating the supremacy of chachma over the other sephirot and the transcendent of insight over the other aspects of intellect and emotion. Wine has a good taste, indicating how through bina, the insight of chachma becomes tangible, becomes understood, and thus appreciable. But wine, if drunk to excess, can make a person lose his bearings, just as the logical reasoning of bina can lead a person astray if taken to excess.
Okay. 1 minute. Okay. Anyone want to ad lib? Anyone want to comment? Okay. The fascinating comparison, fascinating metaphor, fascinating comparison. Yeah, in this case, for how life-giving liquid is produced from the male and from this and from yesod of the person, and much just to compare it to extracting oil and wine out of olives and grapes. Really got to digest that and process it. Okay, so here we making another connection. This is amazing. It's bringing in from left field. In fact, his name Hadad is used in reference to trampling grapes to make wine. How does that work? A pasuk in Yeshaya says, Yayin vayikavim lo yidro chadorech, heidad hishpati. In the vineyards, there will be no rejoicing nor shouting for joy. Prophet Yeshaya is not giving good news here. The treader or the trampler, that's the guy who walks barefoot on the grapes, will not tread wine in the wine presses. I have ended shouts of Heydad. It was customary to make a celebration when a successful harvest was completed, and Heydad was a cheer of celebration similar to hooray. And Hashem says that I will put a rest to the shouts of Heydad, to the shouts of hooray. So we see the connection between his name Hadad, which is Heydad, and the idea of producing wine in this pasuk. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
The king is therefore called Hadad, as is written, no more do the men who trample grapes make wine in their presses. I have made their shouting, Hadad, cease. Thus the name evokes the image of joyful wine pressing. Maybe it should read, thus this name thus evokes the image of the cessation of joyful wine pressing.
No. They would, 1 minute, there should be a dash there, a hyphen. They used to, they would press, to celebrate.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. What I'm saying is they would say that, but if you really think about this from the perspective of the king, the joy of the wine ceases. It ends. So that name, that evil klipot, kills the joy. That's all.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you. Okay, 58. Hadad, the Torah says Hadad is the son of Bedad. So Bedad has several meanings. First, Bedad means alone. On this week, when we begin Tisha B'Av, we'll say Echa Yashva Vadad Ha'ira Basya. How how the city of great population sits alone or sits in seclusion. So the word bedad means alone, seclusion, since, as we said, that the male and female spheres of klipa do not interact. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
This is why he's also called Ben Bedad, referring to Yesod, who dwells alone, Bedad, inasmuch as the Sifirot on the side of evil do not exist as male and female. The word Bedad means alone. Yesod serves primarily to bond male and female parts of him. In the world of Tohu, but in the world of Tofu, the Sifirot are not yet developed as such.
Okay. Secondly, another interpretation of the word Bedad. Bedad also means oil press, because Yesod crushes supernal olives and extracts oil from them. That's Yesod of holiness. On a recent trip to Israel, we visited Bet Bad, that the building of the oil press. They had a bunch of the different vendors, different activities going on there. Yesod is a male principle. So it says he is the son of Ben, that he's the son of also. That's included here. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Furthermore, the word Bedad alludes to oil belonging in the pressers, Bedadin, for Yesod crushes the supernal olives of the oil press and extracts oil from them. He is therefore called Bedad, referring to the oil press, Beit Chabad, and the small oil press, Bodida.
Okay, do the next one too.
Since Yesod is the masculine principle, the word for son of is mentioned in the name of its corresponding king.
Okay, hold on. By the other kings, it doesn't mention. I think it also says they're the son of. Want to get a quick look? Yeah, some. For many of them, it does. Okay. 60. The Torah says Hadad smote Midian in the field of Moab. Midian means strife. Moab means from the father. Holy Yesod represents peace, which overcomes the strife. That may exist in Chachma, which is called the father. So Hadad smote Midian. He got rid of the strife which existed in the field of Moab, which was in Chachma. We're going to explain that in a minute. Gershon, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Since Yesod, that's where we are.
We are, Hadad is mentioned.
That is mentioned as having smote Midian in the field of Moab. For the holy Yesod exemplifies peace, and thus causes strife to cease in the field of Moab. That means in the field of the supernal father, Chochmah. The word for who smote is read as who made cease. The name of Midian is interpreted as the noun Madanim, which means forms of strife and argument. Moab is read as May-ab, from the father, and father refers to Abba, the partsuf of Chochmah. When is there strife in Abba? Should I continue?
No, I have to go first. Okay, here the word Hadad. The word Hadad is 6 times in the Tanakh, 2 in the book of Yeshaya, 4 in the book of Yirmiyah, and it says
This is Hadad or Hadad
Hadad.
with the E?
No, the name is Hadad.
Okay.
So it connects it with Hadad, which is like hooray.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, which is like hooray, not who, which is like hooray. And at least 4 of them, 4 of them are associated with people who are trampling the grapes or making wine. It says with people who who press the wine. The others, I'm not sure. And then it says there is a. It says, I'm sorry. Huidot, the word huidot, which was related, it translates as choir. The choir that sings songs of Thanksgiving. Okay. So actually, one thing is that in Tanakh, Hadad is not a word with meaning that translates something. It's just like hooray, and I don't know what you call that in English. Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I'm seeing here? If it's worth sharing?
Go ahead.
That Hadad smote Midian in the field of Moab. So Hadad is when we move from fulfillment to lack, because we traded the resh for a dalid. And it ends strife or argument in, not sure what to do with the field, but in the father. So the next question that was about to be read was what causes strife in Abba? But strife in God, strife at a higher level is ended when we go from fullness to defectiveness or lack.
That there's what? When we go from fullness to
Yeah,
lack.
so that line, Hadad smote Midian in the field of Moab,
Yeah.
moving from a state of fulfillment to a state of lack, smites, it ends some kind of strife in the Heavenly Father, which is what he's doing in creation, right? He's going from oneness to this dynamic of a light and an empty vessel. He's splitting Adam into two genders, multiple levels. This dynamic of going from ion to multiplicity.
Are you saying if you're going from from being fulfilled and complete, and then you're defective and deficient, that brings some kind of peace?
Yeah. So we're saying that in Chronicles it's Hadad, right, with the Dalet, but it's with the Resh in Chronicles, right? It has the Resh. So that's fullness. And then this was in 53.
No. Both of them are Hadad.
They're both with a D, even in Chronicles.
Yes, it's the 8th king that his name is given differently. The 4th king is Hadad in both places. Here, they switch it for, they turn it into a Resh. They turn it into Hadar.
Hadar. Interesting. So Hadad smote Midian.
Here, it could be that the connection to Hadar is more through Yesod. The Yesod is described as being Hadar. Beautiful, expressing grace. The 4th king is Hadad. What does it say?
Where? I'm lost.
So what pushes us to look at Hadad as Hadar, I think, is more the Yesod aspect of it.
Okay.
That Yesod is filled with Hadar, and therefore we can twist Hadad into Hadar as well. Where are you looking at?
I'm just looking at 53, section 53 from the notes, and that idea, the difference between moving from a Resh to a Dalet. So of course I'm handicapped here, and so from that I'm gaining meaning to the word Hadad as opposed to Hadar, which is a step down, way down.
Right? I see what you're saying. I put this in. I don't see it in the words here. His name Hadad is similar to Hadar, but in here the way it gets to Hadar is not through it comes to his name later. That he calls Dalet instead of a Resh. But based on the Yesod, I guess he should have been named Hadar.
Hadar.
It's more like the Yesod that pushes us to that.
Okay, because I'm looking at in Torah it's one way, and in Chronicles it's a different way.
Where do you see that?
So this was notes. It's just notes I took, Rabbi, because I don't have stuff. But in Torah, Hadad, in Chronicles, Hadar.
The 8th king.
The 8th king. Okay.
Not the 4th.
Not the 4th. Okay.
The 4th is Hadad in both places. The 8th king is Hadar in Torah. He's Hadad in Chronicles. And my point is just to show that there is a scriptural basis for interchangeability between the two.
Okay. Interesting. That's the 8th king.
Yep.
That's very interesting.
Sometimes the Torah uses, it changes from one place to another place. It changes the name. You know what? Here's an example. One of the leaders of the tribes at the beginning of the book of Bamidbar, also his name is switched between Dalet and Resh. I don't remember in which was one and which is the others, but he's called Deuel, and he's also called Reuel. Actually, it's the father, so it's so-and-so ben Deuel, or so and so ben Reuel. So it switches between the Dalet and the Resh, and
I
it
mean,
gets both, and
is
you
it
call both names.
is it a general principle? So obviously Torah is communicating different things about him at different times, right?
Okay.
But is it a general principle that when there's this terrible thing I wrote in my notes when I don't have my book or the note paper, that a resh is fulfillment and a dalet is defectiveness?
Did you see that it says that the Resh is fulfillment? I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm asking honestly. Did anyone here see that Resh is fulfillment?
In the section on 53? No.
I remember something about the Russia and something else. So there is a correlation somewhere. But concerning what you're saying about the strife above and the consequence below, I see it. Sometimes we say that the strife,
I missed.
The strife we have on earth reflects the tribulations or the trials that are above. So concerning what Abigail said previously, that I see it as a consequence. So the strife happens above, and the results may be going from one into multiplicity. So it's the results of the strife above that causes the changes below. But I don't think it's a constant. So the consequence may not be negative in our plane, because the resolution of the strife above could be positive, and therefore we have a positive resolution here. That's just something that rang a bell from what Abigail was saying.
I mean, I'm probably wrong. Thank you, though. Sounds like, oh, dalet is impoverished. I have written down also.
I don't want to.
But anyway, I don't mean to pull us off track.
Yeah, I don't want to. To knock off your thesis. I'm just, so it may be a valid idea in certain contexts.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So here's I had this question. I didn't want to bring it up, but I did have a question. Reish is not fulfillment.
Okay.
Reish is probably in other places. Reish is destitute.
Okay.
So Dalet and Reish, one is destitute, one is impoverished. Okay, there's a small difference between them, and it's also explained. If anyone learned the Maimer Basiligani of the previous Rebbe from 5/7/10, 1950, over there in that Maimer, in that Hemshech, he talks about differences between Dalet and Reish.
So for that, Reish was the Russia, but the Dalet represented.
Dalet thus signifies a transformation from film. Okay, so it does say it. It does say, and that's okay. That's why I asked. It could be here they translate Reish as the head. Yeah, I mean, and like I say, in other places, they both mean impoverished. But there is a slight difference between them. The Dalet has the little yud at the back, indicating bittul, which is a holy. Over there, it explains it that the Dalet is impoverishment of holiness, which means that a person has no ego.
Well, that's
okay. Any case,
thank you.
Yes, thanks. So here, what we're going to say, this deficiency is a problem. It's not a good thing, because we're talking about the deficiency is because of klipa. What kind of strife exists in Chachma that we need this Yesod to come resolve? So what he explains here is that Yesod, the Chachma relies on Malchus, who typically reclaims sparks from Klipa for holiness. Okay, Chachma is up there. Then out comes, emitted from Chachma all the way at the bottom, is Malchus. Malchus is the boy Friday. Malchus has to, his job is to go out reclaim the sparks from Klipa, and reclaim them for holiness. But when Malchus is included in Chachma and has not yet issued from Chachma, it's not yet doing its work, and Chachma gets impatient and experiences strife over this. Gershon,
Yeah. This,
this occurs.
this occurs when the sparks of purity ascend in thought. When the light of Malchus has not yet been revealed below, she being still included within Chochmah. Malchus, at Nukba, we know, is the partsef that actively extracts and releases the sparks of holiness and purity from the realm of evil, allowing them to ascend back to their source in the realm of holiness. But as long as Malchus has not yet been issued, it remains in potentia and in its source, Chochmah. Thus, Chochmah can only imagine the process of elevating the sparks but not experience it yet. This frustrates Chochmah, keeping it in a state of strife.
And go ahead, next one also.
The king spreads out from the entire Sephirah of Yesod. Reference is therefore made to the name of his city, alluding to Malchus within it, that means within Yesod. The Malchus of any entity is the realm in which the entity acts, its context.
Okay, 62. It says the name of the city to show that Malchus is contained within Yesod. I think that's what you just read. The name is Avit, which means, I think pervert. I think twisted might be a better, twisted or crooked. It's in the Asamnu Bagadu that we say, Avinu. Okay. Yes. As in the pasuk at the end of Tillim, 146, the first paragraph after Ashrei. Okay, everybody, when you daven tomorrow, I want you to think about this. And we say Ashrei Yosef V'Secha, and then the paragraph that follows it, at the end, it says V'derech Rishon Yaves Yimloch Hashem Liolam Lokach Tzion L'Davar Havluka. So it's the second to last pasuk of the first Halakha. He will pervert the path of the wicked. He will make the path of the wicked crooked or twisted. Since this is Yesod of Klipa, okay, here we go to the fun stuff. There are two ducts. One carries the male seed, one carries urine. The liquid from the second duct, urine, is diverted to the first duct, which carries seed. That is very perverted, right? Okay. Oh, and corrupted. 211. Gershon, go ahead.
The city was called Avit, which is derived from the pronoun perversity, ivut. As it is written, he will pervert the way of the wicked. This is so because Malchus of this evil Yesod was perverted in order to channel energy from its second duct. That means the left duct of urine as opposed to the first right duct of semen.
Okay. You guys know how to use 4 ducts in a sentence? One sentence with 4 ducts. The feet of the duck went over the fence before the tail. Defeat. Defeat. How you use defeat in this? I'm sorry. The feet of the duck went over the fence before the tail. Okay. Stick to me. Thank you. That's a nice thing.
Very profound.
Sure. So here, over here it says that the second duct gets diverted to the first. Later we're going to say that the first one gets diverted to the second. I don't know how to resolve that discrepancy. In Tillim it says, for Hashem is righteous. So that's 163 is the last one. For in Tillim it says, for Hashem is righteous. He loves acts of righteousness. The upright will behold his face. And it says this refers to Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod are immediately before Yesod. So they prepare the male seed that flows to Malchus through the right duct. The upright will behold his face. The upright is the right duct, which will behold his face means to transmit to Malchus from Yesod. In Hebrew, face is also the word for internal or direct, as opposed to indirect. So that means, I guess, that it keeps the flow going directly. This is in holiness. But in Klipa, the male seed is diverted from the right duct to the left duct. And I asked, does this mean, metaphorically speaking, that urine gets transmitted instead of male seed? Metaphorically, that Again, that carries a very powerful idea. But because of this diversion, the name of Hadad's city is Avit, is given. This occurs not only in Zerampin, but in Nukva as well. Okay, go ahead, Gershon. This is the mystical meaning.
This is the mystical meaning of the verse. For Hashem is righteous. He loves acts of righteousness. The upright will behold his face. The Holy Yesod is termed the righteous one who loves acts of righteousness. This latter being Netzah and Hod. It loves to prepare the supernal semen in them in order to draw it down to Malchus via the right duct. One of the anatomical correlates of Netzah and Hod is the two testicles. The upright refers to the right duct, will behold his face, refers to how Malchus is intended to receive from Yesod with its right duct. However, the evil Malchus of Yesod channeled energy from Yesod via its left duct, and thus perverted its way. It is therefore called Avit. Concomitantly, the evil Nukva of Zerampin also perverted its way, giving from its second duct. That means producing urine instead of male seed. Female seed.
Nukva.
Oh, female seed. Oh.
Yeah, that's the Nukva also is running into the same trouble.
So the sweet, who was it? The sweet waters or the female waters, that was also diverted.
It's Klipa. So it's also corrupted.
Yeah.
But you know what I say? Clever deduction. Okay. So we are going to stop here.
All right.
It's powerful stuff. A lot to digest. Make sure you digest it in the right duct.
The answer is found between the difference of Dalet and Resh. That's where the answer is found.
Okay.
You think so?
You have time to elaborate. We have a few minutes till Mincha.
Well, you have the resh for the right duct and the D for the deviated.
It's all in the perspective of how you view things, because when you say Resh is impoverishment means the lack of basic necessities, which also means an unencumbrance. And if you can live your life unencumbered and really become close to Hashem, then you're really achieving the Resh, which is the Rosh. You're attaining spirituality at a higher level. And Hadad is, the Dalet is really more banal. It is impoverishment, which really is worse than destitution. At least that's my 2 cents for the evening.
Okay. Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Jim. Did Jim check out?
Thank you, Rob.
So better poor than destitute. Okay, I'll try to remember that.
I think it's better humble than destitute. Humble, humility. That's the connection.
No ego.
Thank you. So, like I mentioned in the Basi Lagani, he says that the Resh means impoverished. That means that you're lacking like the important stuff. But the Dalet is impoverishment with a Yud at the corner, which is holiness impoverished. What's holiness impoverished? What's impoverishment and holiness? Where the person has no sense of self. He has a total bittul. And that type of impoverishment shows a that's a desirable trait.
And that's connected. That's where you connect. Okay.
Yes, but here it doesn't really explain how he, where he went to the Dalet. Okay, why he has a Dalet name, why he doesn't have the Resh in the name. It said he uses the word fulfillment, fullness.
Fullness.
It said. Okay. All right, everyone.
Okay.
All right,
Good night.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Good evening.
Hold on.
Good evening.
Good evening, all. Have a great week.